Ian Main, he is an assistant professor at UW Law School. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Mary.
Yeah, Professor, you had said earlier when we talked you were watching this trial with anticipation and apprehension. A lot is being played out. Let's get right into this. On the opening week, prosecutors were able to hear one witness say that Joseph Rosenbaum was, quote, acting belligerently, but did not see him as a threat. What, in your opinion, did prosecutors do best in week one?
I think they did a couple things. I'm impressed by the job that prosecutors are doing with the situation because the public really is split on this and they're in a tough position. But this is how they're painting it, and I think it's fairly accurate, which is these individuals were not there by anyone's authority. They weren't invited by any of the property owners. And from a number of police officers' point of view, it would have been much safer if they had gone home. So they're part of the havoc versus stopping the havoc. And that's one of the themes that the prosecution is pushing, I think, pretty effectively this week.
But there was talk that they were called to there, but in fact, we heard from a car dealership last week who said they were never asking any armed citizens to come and protect their property.
That's right. And so the defense will be using video next week that's going to show that there was a number of anonymous officers that encouraged them to stay and thanked them for their service and gave them water and things like that. And in that respect, emboldened and empowered folks like Mr. Rittenhouse.
Let's go back.
That's the competing narrative.
Let's go back to before last week. You said that you heard in pre-trial some concerning words that will, let's say, ultimately give power to those who carry.
I think that's right. That's the apprehension part in terms of my anticipation, that there will be a use of force expert that's called by the defense. This use of force expert is an expert in use of force by police. That is how he testifies in other cases. That's his area of expertise. The question here is, are we going to apply a similar standard of self-defense that we give, the privilege that we give to officers, to civilians like Mr. Rittenhouse? And if that's the case, and we're going to start blurring the lines between the sort of privilege and more discretion that we give officers, that will also give that discretion to folks who carry, like Mr. Rittenhouse, I think that is a recipe for a lot of future danger.
Good point there. Last question. Tomorrow we are expected to hear from Gage Grosskreutz, who was shot and survived. What do prosecutors want to get from him? And ultimately, how will the defense cross-examine him, in your opinion?
Yeah, my sense with Mr. Grosskreutz is he's going to talk about how there was a man running toward him with an AR-15 at night when people are screaming he just shot someone, which will put reasonably in his mind himself at risk of great bodily harm or death as well as others, and that he will want to intervene in a way that in some way ensures that this threat doesn't continue. That's probably the story that he will tell. It's probably the perception that he actually has. I don't know what it's like, to be in a dark street with someone running toward me with an AR-15. I imagine that creates a serious amount of fear when people are saying he just shot someone. And I think that's what we can expect from that testimony. All
right, Ian Main, thank you so much for your insight. There's so much more to cover, and we hope to have you back again on another newscast. But thanks for taking time on a Sunday evening with us. A pleasure to have you.
Thank you.